The ACC has set its schedule for the next several seasons and also its championship format. We will delve into that. Hopefully, Miami will be involved for all of you. And of course, Miami continues to gear up for 2023 with the two highest commits making their announcements just in the last few days. Miami Hurricanes live with all of you for the next hour here at the Voice of College Football. Leave those comments and questions in the live chat for Mr. Cam Underwood, State of the U. Cam, how's it going?
Going good. Can't complain. So, just here for another Wednesday evening with you guys. So, yeah, man. And lots of good stuff. Sorry, I'm moving all this stuff that I have here under my little stand. But good stuff to talk about. So, let's get to talking.
I guess so. Jaden Rashada can play, coming all the way across country from Pittsburgh, California, as the seventh-rated quarterback in the class of 2023 and a top 50 player overall.
Yeah.
That is a big grab.
Yeah. So, we did there was connection between Miami and Rashada early, then some things happened and the communication broke down, which was intentional. Just from the scenario at the time, Miami pivoted and then went after Emory Williams, got him to commit last week as well, as a high 3-star. He's probably going to end up as a 4-star player, Emory Williams is. So you get a borderline blue chipper who's going to end up as a blue chipper, I'm pretty confident, at quarterback, 6'5", 200 pounds, or 190 pounds now, from the Panhandle, Milton, Florida. And then Jaden Rashada was taking his visits and everything, and he was just like, man, I really want to be at Miami. And then, connected back with the staff and was like, yo, I'm going to push back my commitment day and everything, but I really want to come down for an official visit. I know that, the stories go that it was not Jaden Rashada who was the issue. It was other members of his camp when he first visited. And so he had to reach out and was just like, hey, I know my man's was talking crazy and everything, but they got nothing to do with me. I'm trying to get down with the get down. So he came down for an official visit, and, Florida thought they had him in the bag. And then then the commitment date got pushed back. And then the panic started in Gainesville because they're like, wait, hold on, he was supposed to announce. And then the visit to Coral Gables happened, and then it was a wrap. So then he commits, which is huge because, all respect to Emory Williams, who is, both of those players are at the Elite 11. It was the first time that Miami's had two players in the Elite 11 ever. One of a handful of teams that have had two committed players going to the Elite 11 quarterback camp at the same time. But yeah, there's a difference between a borderline 3-star, 4-star, and a top 50 player in the class. If you look back at Jaden Rashada playing with Miami Immortals 7-on-7 team, he's been throwing to Jalen Brown. He's been throwing to Robbie Washington. Washington is committed at wide receiver. Brown is a target at wide receiver who runs like a sub-22 200 meter dash, so he's super fast and everything. So he's throwing to those guys on the 7-on-7 circuit, and just, the throws he makes are incredible. If you watch his film, it's really outstanding. And there's a difference between getting Emory Williams in the boat and then having him reach out to some guys, and then Jaden Rashada with an elite national profile already, and then he's recruiting all kinds of guys. So it really just raises the floor and the ceiling of this class. Everything just gets elevated with him on board, and you've already seen one tangible move. Well, tangentially related to that, but afterwards, day before, Nathaniel Ray Joseph from Miami Edison completed his flip from Clemson to Miami with an official visit to Louisville in the in-between. Because Louisville, they've always recruited well at the bottom end of Tier 1 and Tier 2 of the South Florida kids. So they're a known squad down here. And then you get a guy like Tutu Atwell, you switch him from quarterback to wide receiver. They've had other guys up there, from South Florida. So Louisville is a known name down here. So getting Ray Joseph on a visit there was not for nothing. But, you get Jaden Rashada, and then you get Ray Joseph, who wanted to always be a Hurricane. And he said that, Manny Diaz and company were not recruiting him, which is great, wonderful. But yeah, you've already seen that, and then other guys. I mean, this is even where you can go on and run on defense and be like, hey, I want to play defense for a team quarterbacked by this kid. You know what I mean? So getting Jaden Rashada is a massive, 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 massive move. That's Mario Cristobal and staff just flexing their recruiting muscles. Ray Joseph, same thing, really just flexing their muscles. And this is where we're getting into the middle end part of that chess game I've been mentioning for a couple of weeks. You get the visits and you lay the foundation, you set some things up, bang, like that right there. Those two right there, back to back, those are some big ones. And, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more to come. But, Ray Joseph and Jaden Rashada in the last couple of days this week, really incredible recruiting job by the staff already. Up to being the highest ranked team in Florida in terms of recruiting. There were Florida fans and FSU fans who were saying in the day before Rashada committed, oh, we have the top class in Florida. It was like, yeah, but you know that there's a top 50 player, top 5 overall quarterback who's committing to Miami tomorrow. You know that, right? And then like, oh, well, we have to. It's like, that Ray Joseph's committing to Miami tomorrow, right? And you're saying this today. But hey, whatever. Let them talk. But yeah, everybody's talking about Miami and the moves they're making. So this is really starting to move.
So, Cam, the other component in this has to do with NIL, and I don't want to misrepresent what possibly could have happened because I haven't looked into it, and I've only seen comments made on social media, some substantiated and others just hearsay about their different dollar figures were thrown out, reportedly coming from Miami versus coming from the University of Florida. There's also a statement on social media that I think came from a somewhat reliable source about someone stating that Florida's NIL approach is a disaster or something to that regard.
Yeah, he's a lawyer who does representation for various athletes. And he was said to have been connected with Jaden Rashada. I forget the gentleman's name. But he's just like, yeah, I never talked to John Ruiz about Jaden Rashada. We've connected about other players and other things, but that name has never been spoken. And with all due respect, the Florida collective is terrible. The way that they do things is atrocious. I would not advise any of my clients to sign with that collective or go to that school. But, hey. But yeah, the numbers that were thrown out, those were wholesale lies put out by Florida fans trying to basically cope with their staff being terrible at recruiting in comparison to Mario Cristobal staff and losing Jaden Rashada, who at one time, like a week and a half ago, he was going to the University of Florida. Boom. But that was a week and a half ago. And yeah, they've made up this number of, Florida offered 11 million and Miami gave him 9.5 and things like that. False. Even Jaden Rashada had to come out and it was just like, look, man, stop. If you believe the On3 NIL valuation metric, they have Arch Manning at $3.4 million with a 10% bump from 3.1 to 3.4 when he committed to the University of Texas. So now, and he's the number one quarterback, number one player in America. I don't believe that he's the number one player in America, but that's where he's ranked. That's a discussion for a different day. But the number one player in America has a $3.4 million valuation, and we gave, reportedly, according to these lies from Florida fans, we gave Jaden Rashada 3x on that value of the valuation of the number one player in America, or 2.95x, where it's just short of 3x. But no, like, stop it. Do I believe that he will get NIL money? Yes. Do I believe it's going to be big NIL money? Absolutely. Why not? But Miami's done things, to my understanding, by the book, which is once the kid is committed, then we can have a conversation. That is not an inducement to get him to be committed and everything. And I think, like, Jaden Rashada played for a travel team when he was younger, called the Canes, that wore orange, green, and white, wearing Ken Dorsey's number 11. You know what I mean? Like, this is where the player wants to be. And I get that, they're Florida fans are salty and everything, but just to make up bullshit and come on social media with lies, to try to disparage the kid because he chose a path differently. It's just, there's no need for that. Miami fans did not do that with Corey Collier, when he went elsewhere, when Jason Marshall chose Florida. You know what I mean? I could make arguments why they should have chose Miami instead, but I'm not going to sit here and demean the character of a player. Like, I'm not going to go out here and just put all this stuff in and accuse them of things like that's that's beyond the pale. But yeah, you know, it was unfortunate that that was brought up to try to ruin that kid's moment and make him look to be an asshole. Just for the simple fact that he chose a different institution, a better institution than Coral Gables. But, you know, and coming from California, Pittsburgh is a suburb of LA, right? And so he even said at the Elite 11, he's like, man, I got to live wherever I go. You know, it makes more sense. I feel like I can fit in Miami. You know, it's like a city and things. Like, these are words out of his mouth. He was talking to, damn, I forget who it was out there, but I saw the video from 247, and you can go look it up. Of Jaden Rashad is saying these things himself. I fit in this city. You know, I can live in this place. I can, you know, think, and that's something that people have to deal with. Now, I know that they make the facilities really great in some places, and, you know, Tuscaloosa, Alabama can be a destination location for 3 years, 4 years, you know, all the facilities and everything, the dorms and everything, you get a run of the town, and then you get the fuck out of there and you get to the league, which is based in major metropolitan cities, you know. But like, come on, man, that was, you know, salty fans, sour grapes, whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, Jaden Rashad is going to be a Miami Hurricane. Let's get it.
I generally don't rate or rank fan bases, and I see these lists all the time on social media. There's a outlet, a guy that we had on a couple weeks ago. His name's Big Game Boomer, and he constantly has these charts and lists where he rates fan bases and coaches and all this other stuff, and it's fun. It's not necessarily accurate. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, whatever. But, you know, that this is the most passionate fan base. This is the most delusional fan base. I generally don't agree with any of that. I'm like, well, there's delusional fans in every fan base. There are knowledgeable fans in every fan base. From my estimation, I just think it makes sense that when you're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, that's generally what it is. But the thing I will say about the Miami fan base is, number one, I don't know if I have the most viewers from Miami. Michigan's high, Ohio State's high, but I have the most generally. I got to estimate the best financial support from Miami fans. And number two, I got to admit, when I have laid it out there, as long as I've come with my facts and been accurate and been fair, I've laid out a couple videos where I've said Miami has not been able to do X, Y, and Z over the last 15 years. And I've been pretty blunt, pretty harsh. And I was expecting a huge backlash, and I got just very minimal compared to anything I would expect from any other fan base. And everybody was very reasonable. When I say everybody, I mean like 99% of the Miami fans were like, Mark, I didn't like to hear that, but that's the truth. And we took it, and you laid out the facts and in context, and it was accepted many times very well by Miami fans. And again, they support like no other.
Yeah. And, you know, and the thing about Miami fans, and I've talked about this on this show before, everybody wants to come at us as being fair weather or whatever. We've been here, thick and thin, storm and sunshine, man. You know what I mean? Like, we're not fair weather. I know that, like, going to the stadium and things, everybody wants to look at that as a measure of fandom. But look, we do live in South Florida, and there are other things to do, and I can watch it on television and go about my day and, you know, go to the beach or whatever. All those, you know, different kinds of things I can fold in to a day other than going to the stadium to watch us beat Central Connecticut State or whatever. Now, I mean, I was there for that game personally, but I understand why some people might not. But that is not necessarily a measure of fandom. And yeah, if we're here supporting, buying the gear, getting the tickets, going all these play, you know, away games. There's you know, a fan base all over this country. You know, it might not be the most people in any given area, but anywhere you pretty much go, man. You know, if I, you know, Marshall Thomas, who used to write for us, he is from Utah or lived in Utah for a time, and he still travels out there in other places. And he's like, yo, I was wearing my Canes pullover in the airport in Logan, Utah or whatever, and I got to go Canes, you know, from across the place. You know, like, Miami fans are all over the place, and people will show up places, you know, and we are here for this team. So, and are really honest about this team. And that's where, you know, when we try to say that, or for example, if I have come on here and I have and talked clearly about the path that Florida State is on, and it's not a good one, I know that because I lived that. You know what I mean? And been honest about it at the time. You know, like, hey, I see where it's going, and it's not, and oh, you know, they want to have rose-colored glasses or whatever, but like, no, we're here all of the time and brutally honest about our program. So it does not surprise me that that was the feedback or experience you've gotten about the videos. To a couple of the questions that I've seen them go by quickly, is it possible that we can get Francis Mauigoa, who is committing on July the 4th, to go along with Samson Okunlola at tackle in this class, with Monroe Freeling and Peyton Kirkland at guard? I do not believe Peyton Kirkland is coming here. The other three, I believe, are still in play. That one right there. That would be the Great Wall of Miami, even though we do have some other guys, and there's transfers, that are going to be moving around the world of college football as well. I believe the first three are possible. I'm sorry, well, three of the four are possible for Miami. I just don't think that Peyton Kirkland's coming here. I could be proven wrong, but the Freeling family, I saw that their flight got canceled going back up the Northeast where they live, and his mom was posting pictures like, our flight was canceled, but we don't care. They're back on campus again, or they're there in Key Biscayne on the beach and everything. And look, man, it's not half bad. But Mauigoa and Okunlola, top 4 offensive tackles in this class nationally, top 20 players both. Hey, you're going to fight for those guys all the way to the end. I know that Gabby Urrutia from 247, another State of the U alum, wrote today that there is confidence about Francis Mauigoa. Not saying that anything's done, not saying it's locked, but Miami feels that they're firmly in the game. And with his Samoan heritage, him and Salavea, I saw it connected on the visit and everything. So there's the potential. So there was that one. Jaylen Brown and Ruben Bain being next up to commit. We'll see. Definitely need to get them on official visits, both. But Ruben Bain's brother works at Miami. His nickname is Hurricane. That's one that I feel good about, but he is a really, really talented player. And even if we feel good about him and all of those familial ties, there's work to be done there. Jaylen Brown, that's one of the receivers that we're going after very, very hard. Elite speed that Josh Gaddis mentioned in a tweet after Ray Joseph committed. Said, yeah, let's build the fastest class around, and you got a guy who runs a sub-22 200-meter dash. Might even be lower than that. I don't know exactly the time. That's why I didn't want to say anything lower than that. But a sub-22 200 for Jaylen Brown. That'll work. And that was the Marcus Enriquez, the question that I talked about with Okunlola, Mauigoa, Freeling, and Kirkland. There was another one about linebackers. Malik Bryant was just in for an official visit. So that's a guy we're going after. Raul Aguirre is another guy who's on the board. I don't necessarily think that he's coming to Miami, but there's a couple, and we're looking at that. But also remember that there's unlimited scholarships up to 85 this year. So if we do not necessarily find the scholarship players from the high school ranks at linebacker, then transfers and defections from other teams after the season are fully in play as well. So I know that obviously we want to look at the recruiting class like it's its own insular thing, because it has been forever. We're talking only about high school kids, but we really need to expand our brains this year and say, okay, if we are not able to get who we need from there, then there is the other talent pool from other teams and guys who go into the transfer portal. So we'll see about that. What is the number then? D-Rock Irish? I don't know if he was talking about number of viewers or something else, but yeah. If that was a number of scholarships, it's unlimited as long as you don't exceed your 85 on the roster. That's all that I can say, but I don't know what that question is in regards to.
Miami Hurricanes live every Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We always have a good time, very informative, insightful, good storytelling, all that. You guys already know that from being here, but other people can find that out as well. If you let them know that we're here every Wednesday at 7 Eastern time. This one was the worst kept secret in the history of mankind, was, of course, Nathaniel Joseph was going to complete the flip from Clemson to Miami, and there it happened officially on June 28th. It's a top 15 or 16 wide receiver in the country.
Oh yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah. And I mean, Louisville did give him something to think about. And again, that's a school that has done well in South Florida. You talk about playing a speed receiver position. So you're like, hey, Tutu Atwell's going to go to the league next year. You can slide right in that same slot, be him or better. it's an easy sell, and then Louisville quietly has a very well structured NIL collective. And you cannot discount the money aspect of it. And again, I'm not saying that Jaden Rashada is not going to have any NIL. The report of 11 million and 9.5 was erroneous on all counts. Wedding crasher shot. Anyway, but yeah, it gave him a lot to think about and everything. But Miami did seal the deal, and he talked about it that he, wanted to always be a Hurricane, and it's the same kind of a thing like Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson was everybody's All-American. He could have went anywhere in the country and showed up, and they would have taken him. Oh Lord Jesus, excuse me. I need to take that.
Okay. We will continue the conversation while Cam takes a call. Kyloran, Miami Kane, appreciate you being here. You are here on a regular basis. Of course, I don't want Kirkland trolls too much. Need Francis. We will have Cam respond to that. I was going to say to Cam, but I guess I'll just say it to the chat here. I will say, in all fairness to Florida State, and Cam had alluded to it going bad for Miami in previous seasons under other regimes, and knowing that and recognizing and not trying to put, a particular slant on it. And I'll bring Cam in if he's ready to roll. Cam, I was starting to say that when you were making a comment about the way it's gone for Florida State, you recognize that you've seen it out of your team under different regimes. The one thing I will say, and this is just a glean of hope for Florida State, is in reviewing some of the players that they're in on, and in addition to the one commit that they just got this week, which was a top 150 offensive lineman, that the 4 guys that I checked out were all top 150 players that had crystal ball leans in Florida State's direction. A top 10 running back out of North Carolina, top 10 defensive lineman out of Alabama, and the other player was a Jacksonville. Don't remember what position he came from. So there was more hope than the top 700 or 800 type player that we've seen commit to this 2023 class for this program over the last 3 months.
Yeah. But hey, shout out to Florida State, because the offensive lineman wanted to go to Florida. He wanted an offer. He wanted them to take his commitment, and they would not. And he tweeted his commitment to Florida State and was in Gainesville still. Like, the geotag on his tweet was still in Gainesville. So he left from the office and was just like, all right, bro, and did that and everything. Yeah, so shout out to them for that. But it's more than one player, it's more than one game, it's more than one play. And I know that people are going to say, 4th and 14 and everything. 4th and 14 got us Mario Cristobal and everything that you're seeing now. So
Florida did not want a top 5 or 6 interior offensive lineman in the country.
That's what he said. You can look it up. He tweeted it like from the parking lot of Ben Hill Griffin Stadium after his official visit, geotagged to Gainesville. Like, it was like, hey, coach, are we good? Are we good? And it was like, nope, cool. Sat in the car, fired off a tweet. Hey, let me connect with Florida State real quick. Good. Bang. Let's get it. And hey, if they didn't want that guy, then maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe there's a character concern. Maybe they wouldn't fit in the locker room. Maybe Billy Napier is not that great at evaluations. But in any event, Florida's loss is Florida State's gain in terms of that one guy. But it is more than that. It's a holistic kind of a thing. And they, like, 4th and 14 was a Band-Aid on a flesh wound for them, I believe. And unfortunately for Miami, we've done a great job of keeping inferior coaches employed over the last 15 years because of losing to them. David Cutcliffe, not that he was inferior, but they were at Duke. And you beat Miami twice in a row. You already know who I'm about to say. Mike London at Virginia for 4 years in a row, on the hot seat every single year, and then beats Miami. And then something similar last year. But hey, that's all right. Go back to the last one.
Where was I?
It said, ask me something. It was a blue ish banner, I think.
Oh. Wow. I have no idea where I was.
Oh, well,
That?
yeah. Why don't I be like, huh?
I don't know.
No, we don't want to be like the Chicago Cubs and go 100 years between, uh, championships or things like that. No, absolutely not. But, I think that we're on a path away from that, especially with the money that's being spent, especially with the staff that's being built or has been built, and the way that recruiting is going. And I've been trying to say it's been chess, not checkers, all along, and it seems like we're getting further along that game of chess with lots of guys that are going to be announcing here shortly, with several of whom that are reasonably expected or hoped or thought to be coming towards Miami.
For those of you who are not up on the ACC's decision over the past couple months to go to a 3-5-5 schedule, it means there's going to be 3 primary opponents designated to each program in the conference that will be an opponent that they play each and every season. And then the rest of the conference, meaning 10 other teams, will be split into 5 and 5. That way you alternate those 2 5-team groups. Therefore, you play everyone at least once every other year. I think that's pretty phenomenal planning myself. There's other aspects of it that I commented on. You can check out the video on the main channel. So let's go to the Miami aspect of this, and I'll pull up a full screen that will run it down. But Miami's primary opponents, Cam, of course, Florida State, Boston College, and Louisville.
Florida State, obviously, that's your traditional rival. So that's going to be one. Boston College, that goes back to the Big East days and things. Goes back to, way back with, the Flutie, Hail Mary and things like that. So historical in that kind of a way. And then Louisville has no real rivals, no traditional guy. There's Kentucky, but that's it in the SEC. So in conference, that was the wild card team that had to be placed somewhere, right? So as you see that, yeah. So Florida State, it really was Florida State number 1 for us, right? So Florida State's number 1, Boston College is number 2 because of history. And then they had to throw Louisville somewhere. And so what I believe is they basically took Virginia or Virginia Tech off, probably Virginia Tech more. They took Virginia Tech off of our 3 and then replaced them with Louisville. And then they just kind of had to wedge Louisville in a couple places. And that happens to be where that is. I'm fine with it. Boston College, that should be a 9 out of 10 years win. Florida State, I know it's a rivalry game, so it's going to be less dominated by one team than it should be. But the current state of the programs, that should be a 8 out of 10, and then Louisville should be, probably a 7 out of 10 win rate of those teams at a minimum, I think. So, you could have had stiffer competition, but, it could have gotten, it could have been much easier too. It could have been, Duke. But, Duke is going to have Carolina State, and Wake Forest is their 3, like, duh, of course. So, yeah, but it was, that's a fine group. I don't like it. I understand it in terms of Miami. RIP Florida State, Clemson, Miami, and then Syracuse. And then they got to play Florida every year as well. So every year for the next 5 years, they got Florida, Miami, and Clemson set every single season. Rip.
Yeah.
Like that's really rough for them. And especially at the state of where their program is. Again, this is not Bobby Bowden top 5 every year for 20 years, Florida State. It's just not. So that's a little rough for them. In terms of, I could run down all of the teams, but I'm not going to. Georgia Tech, their traditional rival is Clemson. They have that one every year as a crossover anyway. Wake Forest. Georgia Tech, they kind of threw, again, other teams. Louisville, fine. Wake Forest, they needed a 3rd team, so it's a wild card. So, again, I think that's where Louisville has been inserted in where another team could have gone. for Georgia Tech. In terms of Miami, for the other 5, I went down to the schedules because in the linked tweets in the rest of the thread, they have the season schedules for the next 4 years. That'd be 23, 24, 25, and 26. Group A for Miami of the other 5 is Georgia Tech, Virginia, Clemson, NC State, and Carolina. So those will be the 5. But then also Group B is Duke, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, and Pittsburgh. That is a much easier path to traverse. But because it's not a fully set 5, it's not formulaic in that kind of a way. What they've actually done is in a couple of years, they've swapped Clemson and Virginia Tech in those groups or in and out of those groups.
Okay.
So it's like 2 years, it's Clemson. It's like years 1 and 2, but not 3 and 4. But most other teams are like year 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. You know what I mean? So it's like when they use them has been moved around slightly. And that's been, at least from what I was looking at the other day when I was on the phone with a friend of mine, that's what it seems to be. So obviously the group with Clemson is the more challenging group just because Clemson. And I don't think that Clemson's going to be superstar, national championship Clemson, but they're still a quality team. I think there's still going to be a quality program, even if the quality goes from 13 wins to 9 wins or 8 wins. That's still a quality program in my mind. So, yeah, Georgia Tech, Virginia, Clemson, NC State, and Carolina, or Clemson or Virginia Tech. And then Duke, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Clemson or Virginia Tech, but more likely Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh in the other 5. The B-year rotations in 24 and 26, definitely an easier path forward. But in 2024, that's one of the years that they switched Clemson. So we're going to be playing them again and again and again. So that year, Miami is at Florida to open, at Clemson, and at Notre Dame, all in 2024, 2 years' time. That is a very tough schedule. But, we can't be scared of anybody. We can go in anywhere, play anywhere, anybody, anytime. But that's going to put this program and this staff and this team to the test for sure, because, those are 3 major name brand programs. Like it or hate it, obviously I have no love lost for the University of Florida, but going up there and going to South Bend and going to Clemson, South Carolina all in the same year, that's a tough task, but one that hopefully the Miami Hurricanes are for.
So my thoughts on this is I scurry to try to find some stats I compiled. I'll get to them in just a second. Would be number 1, I think that the ACC nailed this about as close as you can, because everybody needs to understand when you put a formula out there, not everybody fits the formula perfectly, meaning there are some programs that have 1 realistic rival. Others have 2 and 3 and 4 that are true rivals. So a formula is not going to fit and adapt to every program. So there's going to be what Cam alluded to, kind of a cascade of priorities. The first one is you have to protect Florida State. Miami, Florida State. You have to protect North Carolina, NC State, etc. And then you've got preferences like Tobacco Road. You want to make as much of a preference of keeping those collective teams together as much as you possibly can. And then it becomes placeholders. Okay, we've got like 14 spots open. What's going to make sense? What's not going to make it too difficult on anyone? And then it becomes placeholders. So Miami, there was an obvious must. That's probably the most important must in the conference. And then after that, those 2 are kind of placeholders because there are other more preferable opponents that make more sense for both Miami and those other teams. And I think Virginia Tech would be near the top of that list.
That's that one, and you get, I know people were talking about markets. So it is easier to get from Miami to Boston than it is to get to Blacksburg, Virginia, with the plane and, plane trip and a ride, similarly to Louisville. I get it, but in terms of the football and the tradition and the history between the programs, that's the glaring omission in my mind, is not having Miami and Virginia Tech every single year. That one sticks out to me.
Now, sometimes
And
when
I
you
mean, look,
get,
exactly. You got Virginia Tech, Virginia. Then you bring over a Big East / Coastal Division rival in Pittsburgh, and you know, spin a dice, a 12-sided Dungeons and Dragons die or something, and you come up with Wake Forest as their third team. You know, so there's two very intentional ones. In-state Commonwealth Cup, gotta have it. Pittsburgh completely makes sense and is geographically reasonable. And then you're just going to throw Wake Forest. And I get that there's not going to be any geographic reasonability, for Miami other than Florida State, just because South Florida is so far south. If you've never driven the state of Florida, you hit the Georgia-Florida line and you got another 7 hours to get to Miami. You know, or like 400 miles, something like that. So it is way further south than you think. And yeah, like to get anywhere is going to take a while. So there isn't a tobacco road, you know, like those middle two lines underneath Miami. Carolina and Carolina State, or NC State, sorry. So Carolina gets Duke, NC State, and Virginia. Cool. NC State gets the Textile Bowl with Clemson, the agricultural school of the state of South Carolina, and then the other two teams in Tobacco Road, Duke and Carolina. Like they all make sense, you know, both, you know, in terms of history and in terms of geography. In terms of Miami, there can be a lean on history, and I think that they went there with Boston College, and they had to go a ways back to find that history. But then, you know, it was they used a number randomizer to find Louisville as the number 3. But you know, in terms of this is for the next 4 years, so not this upcoming year. The schedule's already been set for 22, but this is the next 4 years following that, 23 through 26. There will be a reevaluation in 2025 that will set then the schedules for 27 through 30. So it is potentially possible that things will change and realign because, again, the conference want to keep traditional things together, but also balance maybe some of the teams that opponents the teams are playing, and also set themselves up for the best path forward towards a college football playoff and a major payoff day for the conference. So, you know, yeah, Georgia Tech, again, traditional rival Clemson, Louisville, Wake Forest, fine. Florida State, Miami, number 1, Clemson, who's in their division now, number 2, and then Syracuse, fine. Carolina gets the other team, Duke gets the other teams in the state of North Carolina, which are Carolina, NC State, and Wake Forest. You know, again, it's really clear for at least one, probably 2 of the 3 teams. It's very infrequent that it's the Duke situation where it's just like, oh yeah, all the other teams in the state of North Carolina, situation. But
yeah,
you know,
and that's exactly what I was just about to point out. Ironically, Duke, being probably the worst football program in the conference, has the most continuity to its 3 primary opponents. They make the most sense of any of the teams in the conference. North Carolina, NC State, and Wake. They're all rivals of Duke. And then second would be NC State, with Duke. Clemson has become a rival, is a rival. North Carolina, of course. And the one that makes the least sense to me would be Wake. They're a rival against Duke. Then Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech are just kind of placeholders. But that's what it's going to be. You can't get it perfect. You just don't have the right math to do it.
Right.
The other thing that stands out to me, Cam, is when I just glanced at it and looked at each team's 3 primary opponents, I immediately thought Florida State's got the toughest draw and Wake has the easiest draw. And then I went to the last 5 years. I went through the last 5 years ACC records. Do you know who has the second best record in the ACC over the last 5 years? Clemson, of course,
NC State.
record. Miami.
Oh,
Miami,
really?
best conference record in the ACC, 27-14, the last 5 seasons. So that's 2017. Of course, that was a 7-1 season through 21. So in order, Florida State, 78-47 are those 5 opponents, those 3 opponents the last 5 seasons put together. Of course, anybody that draws Clemson, again, as you mentioned, it's going to be a bit of a rough ride, but shouldn't be as dominant as they've been. But the numbers tell us, and anybody can check out my video, that Florida State is the toughest draw. And yes, let's see if I can take it from the top here. If I choose this screen, Hang with me for just a second. We have this one. Those are the 4 toughest records in the ACC. Those are the 4 most difficult 3 primary opponents based on the last 5 seasons in the ACC.
And I mean, off the top of the dome, what do Florida State and Georgia Tech have in common?
They're no good.
Nope. About the common opponents.
They're
Both of them
I'd have
got
to
to play
look.
Clemson.
Oh, they both got to play. Yeah, exactly. They both have to play Clemson.
So, there it goes. And yeah, that's why, I mean, if you see, 78 and 47 and then 74 and 50, 51 or whatever it was, it's really outsized because, Clemson's in those groups for, both of those teams. But, it'll be interesting. And, I think that obviously I'm sorry, I was taking notes. I like to write on paper still sometimes. So yeah, just looking at the groups, it's not anything that should really be too tough to traverse for Miami. Not saying that every year is going to be undefeated national championship season and things like that and blah, 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 blah. But, they're advantageous situations. So, yeah. Christian, I mean, from Fort Lauderdale, yeah. Okay, fine. Sure. Did that flight for the ACC championship game, even though we went to Charlotte, not Clemson. And so it was a little bit of a longer drive, but everybody doesn't live in Fort Lauderdale. All Miami Hurricanes fans who are watching this are not still in South Florida, even. You know what I mean? So, add that into the thing for talking about getting to and from different locations. So in terms of Miami, I do think that, I mean, Tallahassee is a monster to get to, period. So just because it has a municipal airport, not like a big airport, because it's Tallahassee. So like that's going to be the one outlier anyway. But the other 2 markets that you're going to if you're Miami are Louisville, which is fairly easy to get to, and then Boston. That'll work, so yeah.
And one last note, you had alluded to the 5-team rotation that goes back and forth between those 2 5-team groups. And the only thing I would think that the conference would want to make sure of there is that there is a projected balance, somewhat of a balance, but there is a possibility with Clemson, North Carolina, and NC State, the way they're currently constructed and recruiting, those could be the 3 of the 4 best teams in the conference.
Right. Along with Miami, and those are all in that same
Sure.
group. But then again, in a couple of years, they have flipped Clemson and Virginia Tech, and it's Carolina, NC State, and Virginia Tech instead of Clemson, which does make it a little bit more, easier to manage for Miami in those terms. But yeah, they do want to look at that. I saw, Jesus, I forget his name. He used to be Team Speed Kills, SEC Twitter from SB Nation, Brandon something. Tweeted out, it's like there's one year where it's like Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Wake Forest, I want to say, they don't play each other they don't play each other anywhere in the rotation for that one season. Even though I do not believe that this is going to happen. Hypothetically, what happens if all of those teams go in undefeated in conference? Because they do not have any crossover. They do not play each other. And he went down the list, right? There are tiebreakers and things like that. But at that point, then it's the ACC just saying, these are the 2 teams that we want. And one of you guys is just going to have to be mad at us about it. But they tried, I think, to limit that. They tried to have everybody, play everybody, in one season. Yep. Like there's no complete, like this team has 9 conference games or 8 conference games, and this team and 3 teams have 8 conference games, and never do those teams cross over between each other in the string there. They tried to avoid that. I think, one of these 4 years, and I think it's between those 3 teams, I believe it's 2023 or 24, I think he said from his tweets.
And who were
That's
the
the
three
one year where
teams?
they don't go away. Huh?
And who were the three teams?
Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Again, it's a mental exercise. It's not going to be practical because, but I appreciate the ask of the question because that's something you have to consider, right? As until the games get played, it is possible that all three of those teams could go undefeated on paper, right now as we're talking about it. And then what do you do if you're the conference? But what you're doing is like what Mark is saying and like what you're all thinking as you're listening. Cam, ain't no goddamn way that I hear you. I agree with you.
But if you're running a conference, you've got to figure those things. You got to be looking out for that. You don't want to look like complete fools. Like
exactly
the third place team in or the tied for first place team in our conference is 8-0. And we're telling them they can't play in a conference championship game. They did nothing wrong. They won all their games.
Yeah. And then
what are we going to do?
And again, if you're talking Florida State and Georgia Tech, that means that both of them beat Clemson in that year, right? That means that Florida State beat Miami in that year, right? As well. That means that Wake Forest, they probably beat one or both of Miami and Florida State, as well as, probably one of NC State, probably two of NC State, Carolina, and Pitt in that year. You know what I mean? But again, I get that this is a mental exercise more than a practical experience because regardless, I don't think that all three of those teams in whatever year it is are going 8-0 in conference. But to Mark's point, if you're running a conference, you have to see these loopholes. You have to close those loopholes, and you have to be prepared for any eventuality, even three teams going 8-0 in conference, even if you're sitting yourself and thinking, it's very, 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 very unlikely that Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Florida State go 8-0 in conference in whatever year all together, and they don't play each other, so there's no ready-made tiebreaker. I get it logically. I hear you, listener. I get it. But if you're running a conference, you cannot just obligate that. You have to ensure that the structure is there, such as you will not have to deal with that if what you believe to be the impossible, like Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible, and then comes to fruition, and then you got to deal with it.
Because on the surface, it seems as though most of college football nation, including myself, are all for abolishing divisions and saying, yeah, of course, it makes total sense. We want to see the best two teams in the league play. And then nobody ever gives it another thought, just thinks, well, of course, this is the way to go. This is the best alternative. You don't want your fifth best team to win a division and play in the conference championship game, but they don't think of the possible issues that could arise because of that.
Absolutely.
At least within a division, that team earned a division championship based on a head-to-head win that can never be refuted. There can never be a tie within a division because everyone plays each other. There was some other, I wish I could remember. I came up with some other type of issue for a second place tie. It was something similar, but absolutely. All right. Is there anything on the horizon from a recruiting standpoint?
Oh boy, is there? Is there? So Robert Stafford, a four-star athlete. Hey, there we go. St. Louis. Do you know anything about Robert Stafford, the athlete we are crystal balled for? So four-star from Melbourne, O'Galley, is committing somewhere tomorrow. He has gotten multiple crystal balls that he's coming to Miami. This 5'11", 190-pound athlete, dynamic on both sides of the ball. I believe that we're recruiting him to be a defensive back. So he's a guy who is committing on the 30th of June somewhere. And it seems that Miami's picking up steam on July the 1st. Riley Williams, your number 3 or 4 tight end in America, formerly of Portland Central Catholic, who has announced that he is transferring to IMG Academy. He is committing on July the 1st. That would be Friday. Miami is in a very, very good spot, it seems, for that young gentleman. Collins Anchimpong, the 6'7", 245-pound jumbo athlete who's going to be a defensive end or being recruited by Miami, Michigan, LSU, and somebody else in his Final Four. He is committing also on Friday, July the 1st, with Miami making a late charge there. Then you have Jackson Howard, an athlete who profiles very strongly at defensive end, so much so that 247 has actually changed his listing, his position listing, to edge as opposed to athlete. He is committing on Friday, July the 1st as well. Miami has recruited him as defensive end. It seems maybe that there are other teams that are offering him the chance to play offense, which is where initially I would have wanted him to play on offense. As I've looked more into the film and his body build and everything, I think the defensive end fits more for him. But if he desires to play offense, I believe that there are teams who are willing to do the Anquan Bolden thing with him and say, sure, you can play the position that you want to. And then, hey, how about you slide over to the position that we actually want you to play? In case you don't know that story, Anquan Bolden did that. He played quarterback in high school. He was very, very good. He played like 3 reps at quarterback at Florida State. He went to wide receiver, never played quarterback again until all 5 of the other scholarship quarterbacks got injured for a bowl game. And you can look that up. Also, the one that I believe was the most recent one is the aforementioned at the beginning of the show, Francis Mauigoa, 6'5", 330, top 10 player in America, the number 1 offensive tackle in America from Bradenton IMG Academy as well, is committing on the 4th of July. So that would be Monday, where he is committing. Darren Reed from Columbus Carver also committing on the 4th of July. Miami did bring him in for an official visit, but I do not believe that he is going to come here. Tony Rojas from Fairfax, Virginia, is a 4-star linebacker committing on the 5th of July. That is on the list. And I think those are all of the ones that we need. Raul Aguirre from Georgia, July 16th, but I don't think that he's coming here. And then Jonel Aguero on July 23rd, also as a 4-star safety. There was, Jaden Bonsu from St. Peter's Prep in New Jersey, who was saying that he's getting ready to narrow his list and announce his commitment date. So that's somebody else. But in terms of the next few days, you got Stafford tomorrow. You have Williams and Anchimpong and Howard. Even if Howard doesn't come here, you got 3 guys on Friday and then Francis Mauigoa on Monday. So that's 5 guys in the next 6 days. And there can be, again, further future movement in terms of the Miami Hurricanes recruiting class. I feel confident on at least 2. I think that Stafford is locked down. I think that Riley Williams is locked down. Anchimpong I feel good about, but not great. Mauigoa, again, a 5-star offensive tackle. That's one that I'm going to need to see. I need to see Cristobal and company win that battle. But I feel very confident about 2, and I think that the other 2 of those are pretty possible. And I think that Jackson Howard is going to elect to go elsewhere because he wants the chance to play offense. And by already having 2 6'6", 230 tight ends and then going after the number 4 tight end in America and Riley Williams, I do not believe that the potential to play offense for Jackson Howard exists at Miami. And if that's something that he desires, then he's going to have to look elsewhere for it. And I believe that's what he's done. So of those 5 guys, I feel that 1 is a firm no, 2 are firm yeses, and 3 are very possible. Oh, sorry, the other 2 are very possible to make up the numbers because 2 + 2 + 1 = 5. Quick maths. So yeah, lots going on the recruiting trail, and again, this is what the staff has been building towards. And I hope you enjoy the show.
Marcus Enriquez is going into the 24 class, which we typically don't do. These are 2 top 10, top 3 linebackers in the country. They're both top 30 players nationally anyway. Darius Hayes and
unfamiliar.
Unfamiliar.
Sorry, with either of those gentlemen. I've been really trying to focus on this year's class, especially at linebacker, because I know Marcus, you asked me about those linebackers a couple weeks ago. So I've been having my focus there. Not really familiar. I'll have to look at those guys. I was talking with somebody else about quarterbacks in 24 the other day. A couple that I like, a couple that I think could be decent, but I really need to see not a step forward, but a leap from them in terms of both physical development and performance before I even breathe their name on this microphone. But we'll get to those guys eventually in the future.
Strong chat tonight, 300 plus. Thanks so much for being here. Bring some folks with you next week, Wednesday, 7 Eastern, folks. In the meantime, get on over to State of the U.
Yeah, lots going on. We had the What If Wednesday that I forgot to post last week was what if Butch Davis had never left Miami. That's gotten a lot of chatter. That's a big one, especially with how long it's been for Miami to be relevant for winning as opposed to just the branding of the program. So that's a very strong piece by Chris Piccaro. Please go check that out. Player profiles, position previews, game previews, coach profiles. I'm going to try to get out a recruiting thing here soon. I know, like I said, the secret day job keeps me away from the computer to be able to have the quick reflexes and writing time that I once had. But, hey, maybe that'll change soon. Who knows? But yeah, I do want to get something out for that. So we got all of that and more. We got the summer scheme theme. We already had the first installment of Justin DeTavio's Storm Chasers series, connecting with people to give you the best created, cultivated, curated guides to away game trips for any and all Miami Hurricanes fans. So anywhere you want to go for this year's schedule, be sure that you check those out. Be sure that you save those and save those for future years, because, hey, we've already talked about you're going to go back to these places, or the team is going to go back to these places. And, hey, maybe you have the occasion to go and watch them. So be sure that you check out Storm Chasers. Be sure that you save that, bookmark those pages and everything, so you can get back to those in the future years that you want to go to those locations. So we have all of that coming up and even more commentary. There's a couple pieces that I have to edit down in editorial myself, and then a couple others that were going to be written. So Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports. Got a fairly decent size announcement coming up eventually for you guys. That's what we call a tease for you. So be on the lookout for that. And also, before I get out of here, I want to wish Mark and everybody a happy 4th of July. I know it is a little bit early, but for the first time in 11 and a half months, your boy is taking an actual scheduled vacation. I got hotel booked. I got flights booked. I am actually getting out of here, which for a variety of circumstances that the secret day job has not been something I've been able to do for a while. So I will not be with you next week. I know that Mark will be here. I'm sure that he will have a great show. I don't know who's going to be in the second chair. But while you are celebrating, do it well, do it safely, and enjoy yourselves. And enjoy the time apart, because I'm going to be enjoying my vacation. I hopefully will be able to come back and talk more about some of these recruits that hopefully pick Miami in the off, the fortnight between times that I'm on here with you guys. But just because I'm gone doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all the support and everything. And we're going to catch up with you in a couple of weeks, man.
Cam, have an amazing time off and enjoy.
Absolutely.